It is now time for me to actually look at my final project. And my final project is a data set that I made just for this video that I have never seen before. So not only am I going to go through this final project, I'm going to go through it with a little timer in the corner so that you can see how long it takes me. In class, I would probably force all the students to actually watch me go through it. In a video, I know you're just going to fast forward anyway. So if it's boring stuff, I'll pause, but I'll leave that timer on so you can see how long it takes me. Alright, so there is my timer rolling, and what do I want to do? Okay, first thing I'm going to do is actually look at this data set. Now, let's be fair. I have done this for lots of years, so I kind of know what I'm looking for, but typically this would be the first thing I'm looking at. And I want to see things like the enemy deaths tend to be in the thousands, 2,000 or 3,000. Civilian deaths, I'm looking at 40s, 50s, something in that range. I'm looking at stock values. Okay, terrorism is categorical. That's going to be important. The IG-88 is categorical. We have installed values and none values. And so typically I would spend some time kind of looking at these sorts of numbers. Now, for this video, I'm not going to make a lot of comments in the code. So if you want to know what the comments are, then this is the video to be watching. But otherwise, I'm not going to do comments. And the reason for that is I don't want you to just copy and paste what I've done. I want you to actually think about what you need to do, what works for you, and to go through and do your own code. So there is my code. And I am going to make it so that you can see the code, but not all the comments. You've got to understand what you're doing. This is your final project after all. So there I have read the data set in. Does it look good? Yeah, and normally I would probably spend some time looking at this. Okay, this is numeric that goes from 0 to 70, right? Stock values, numeric, it goes from negative 1,366 to positive 14,000. That's not a minus sign right there, that's a dash that I can't point to it and have it go. Okay, terrorism has 4 levels. Okay, well, this is interesting. I think my next step is just to try to plot it, and this is going to be way too small. I'm worried because I have to make my screen smaller that it's not going to fit at all. Oh, it's thinking about it. See a little stop sign here? It says, I'm trying. Be patient. Oh, that took a little bit longer to pull up than I thought. What am I looking for in here? Well, these are really tiny. Maybe here. Maybe I can move my window around. Oh, hey, there we go. Okay, what am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for outliers that indicate that maybe there's a problem. It looks like stock might be. So I'm going to look closer at this plot a little bit later. I'm also looking at things like this right here. This is between firepower and payload. Oh, well, hey, that's an improvement. It just took R a minute to respond. Okay, firepower and payload are highly collinear. If I know the payload value, I can tell you the firepower value with a lot of accuracy. So that means whatever happens to firepower is likely to happen to payload. I'm going to keep in mind these two are highly collinear because whatever I do in my report, it's possible that I could have done it with firepower or payload, but I might not need both. And normally I would just grab a piece of paper and write on it, but this is a video and you can't see that. So what am I going to say? I'm going to say firepower and payload. Let's label these as collinear variables. I also noticed bombs here has some high collinearity as well as missiles. First aid I can't tell because there's some outlier messing it up. So I'm going to try to remember in the back of my mind that I should look that up again and try to make sure. Yeah, I see first aid really is the only other one that I'm super concerned about. Now let's start by looking at enemy. Okay, enemy seems to range from the 0 to the 10,000 range. Looks like killing 10,000 enemies would be a good thing. What's the average? T-dot test is not found. Oh, SDC dot. Okay, hang on. Try that. Okay, so the average is about 3,000 deaths, and we've got a lot of data, so we can be pretty accurate about that average. So when I do predictions, I should be getting somewhere in the 3,000 range. Now, here I want to start plotting enemy versus the other guys. And wow, so the very first one I picked was stock. I started on the third column, I equals 3. I don't care if you use this notation. There's lots of ways to do it. You could have done enemy $ stock, and then that would have worked out just fine. But this tells me I've clearly got an error in there. So I'm going to go back up to when I very first read in the data, and I'm going to say I want SDC to get, which rows? I want the rows where STC $stock is, what should we say, greater than 0, because it looks like you can't even have a stock of below 0, and then every column. Now, is that going to change my, oh no! Well, I just told you I wasn't going to make any more comments, but I am going to change that rule and comment out that plot, because if I accidentally run this, it takes my computer a couple of minutes to pull that off. Let's clear those. Okay, let's relook at the histogram. It didn't really change much. It really didn't change much. But the picture of stock now looks very different. Oh, and I've noticed that I've got this cubic pattern going here. So over on my notepad that I would have next to me where I write on it, I just make a little note, stock cubed would be a good idea there. All right, what do I want to, oh, so there's the first one. I want to do this and say I gets I plus 1, and then replot this again. And that way when I run this, I get terrorism. Looks like I've got the 0. Does that bug me? I might decide to take that out, I'm not sure. Here's firepower. What is happening with firepower? Okay, we've got some outliers here. I don't know that I see curving. Something's up with firepower. So I'm going to say firepower logged. It seems to be exploding more in the X direction than in the Y. So I'm going to say maybe firepower is what should be logged there. Let's take a look at payload. There's this weird tilt. Why are all of them tilting? No, I don't see much. Ooh, bombs. Look at that. I definitely see an outlier there. I'm going to add to my list. Bombs should be logged. Next. Missiles. They all have that weird... Oh, gee. Well, there's a problem. Okay, let's go back up here. I want STC to be a data set where first aid has to be less than... What's something big? 1000. Okay, and now what happens to first aid? Oh no! So I sat there for a full minute. Should I pause the video while I show? Ooh, look at that. I have somehow deleted my entire data set. All right, let's start over. Read in the data set, clean the stock problem, and why was this a problem? And that deleted everything. I'm going to bet that I misspelled first aid. First aid, capital F. Where is first aid here? First aid has, oh, it's a capital A. Really? This is why I pause videos. Now show me. Yeah, see, so. You do have to spell things correctly. Now, telling it that it needed to be less than 10,000 was way overkill. I could have said less than 3. And I'm going to do that just because I think it looks nicer. It won't matter. Look at this 0, though. Is this an error? It's the only 0 there? Okay, I'm going to have to make a decision. It said first aid is the number of first aid centers set up behind the front lines per unit. And here we're talking about 0 first aid stations. I'm going to have to think about that. My gut tells me that this is just an error, but I can't prove it, and I don't want to go back to the code that actually made this data set, so let's ignore that for now. I put it on my post-it note. We'll come back to it. See, there's a 0 here. Can we start over? Start over at the very beginning. Really? Okay. So obviously I didn't clear the stock value of 0. Much better. And there was a, okay, so there was a 0 in everybody, and when I killed it in the stock variable, that killed it for all the others. Why are you not, why are you locked up? Oh no! Okay, I don't know what that was, but I cleared my plots and it started behaving better, so good. Okay, firepower now looks better. Payload, weapons, bombs, missiles, first aid. So what was that 0? That was part of the stock value of 0, and I forgot to run that, which made it pop up. So now I can take that off my list of things to worry about. Okay, let's go. Look at that fishtail. Is there something there? I don't know. I'm gonna wait and look at it. Woo! See now, the problem is I've been sitting here thinking, what is that? Is that cubic? Maybe. Could it be that it needs to be logged in the y direction? But if I log enemies, then all of these graphs will be logged, and the others, it didn't look like a log was necessary. So I made a little note that there's a swerve, and I'm not sure that I can figure out what I'm supposed to do with that. At this time, we'll come back to them in a little while. It turns out sometimes if you fix other variables, then it helps you figure out what's supposed to be done with that one. And there's IG88. And if I do more, it'll give me an error because IG88 is the last one. Yes, okay, thank you. Alright, I think I'm ready to make a fit. And I just threw these variables in. I didn't account for some of these notes like log, firepower, whatever, quite yet. I want to just look at what happens if I plot each of these variables based off the enemy in a linear fashion, and I did get a fit. I didn't get an error. That's nice. It means I spelled everything right. And I even went through the time. How much time? 22 minutes. Video is 10 minutes. I even went through the time to actually make all those plots. And how do I make my window bigger? There we go. Thank you. Now I'm ready to look at. Really? Resist the urge to pause the video. Resist the urge to pause the video. Okay. Why do X and Y lengths differ? Well, what is the length of my fit $sign residuals? Okay, and what is the length of my SDC $sign? Let's just pick stock. 1 extra. Why does that happen? It didn't give me an error when I ran the fit. Okay, I've seen this before. What happened is there was an NA located somewhere in this data set. I'll bet I can even find it. I ran this command, gave me a summary of my data set. No. Come on, where's my funny variable here? No. Right there. There is an NA located in enemy. In enemy itself. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so I'm going to go, SDC needs to be SDC. I want the rows where enemy, I'm going to say I don't want where it is NA for the SDC enemy. Give me all the other rows. Ready? Okay, now let's rerun the fit. And it worked! Wow! Look at that! Okay, I'll tell you part of the problem is I've switched my X and Y. I did a comma instead of a tilde. That's the way I really want to look at it. This residual tells me very clearly there is a cubic pattern. I already knew that. It's even in my notes. So, not really a shocker. Terrorism, 0 still bugs me. I'll probably take that out at some point. Firepower, didn't I say that maybe a log on that one? Yeah, firepower log. So I'm seeing the same stuff that I saw before. Actually, some of this looks a little better. Oh, remember that tilt? There was a tilt on everything. It looks like the linear form managed to follow that tilt. What are you doing? Let's ignore that for now. I'm not going to ignore it forever. I like how, do you see how there's like this hairdo on top of temperature? I'm not sure what that is about. Alright, but some things I know I can take care of. So I'm going to come back to this guy. I'm going to say stock, let's give him a cubic. Let's try firepower and bombs both being low. I'm going to have to do something with media at some point. But let's see if I can forget about this. Okay, that looks a lot better. There's something going on up here. I need to figure out. Oh, I'll bet it's media. Once I fix media, that'll fix that poof up there because in the media, yeah, see, this is the data set's causing the poof. What am I going to use to try to fit that? If I logged media, would that look better? No, log scale still looks like a Nike symbol. Okay, well, I got to do something. Let's try media squared, capital media squared. This is why we pause video. I'm sitting here letting the timer drain out, wondering if I should try a log of media squared. If I do this, okay, the rule of logarithms says all I'm doing is timesing 2 by the log. But if I did that, that would be a log media times log media. do I really think the form is log media times? You know what? Let's just try this. Hey, something worked. What do I got? I've got media squared and I've got log media. And between the two of them, that's looking lots better. I'm going to start completely over. That looks great. That looks great. The zero still bugs me. That one, okay. There's still some scattering up here, but I already tried logging firepower. I don't think logging of firepower is really a good idea. Payload looks good. Weapons, bombs. No, I've already logged bombs. I'm not going to log a log. So if logging bombs didn't fix that, I'm assuming that's not what's needed. Missiles looks good. I'm seeing an insect pattern there, but it's not enough to know what to do with it. First aid seems to have a weird pattern too. Spies, media, personnel. Is there a shape to that? Is it quadratic? Or am I trying to make shapes out of nothing? You know, when I do this in class, I actually often will work on the data set in my office secretly and then pretend to be unsure what I'm doing. But for this video, I really honestly have not looked at this data before. I'm going to try a personnel squared right there. It's possible there won't be anything, that I'm just making stuff up. I also, okay, spies and first aid seem to, well, even first aid and missiles. Do you see how there's kind of this buggy pattern, like little legs coming out? I'm going to try a missiles times first aid interaction. There's not really a lot to indicate that that interaction is justified, but I want to be able to tell the teacher, hey, I did look at interactions, I knew what to watch for, and I tried it, and there didn't seem to be anything, because I'm betting they'll go away, but looks great, looks great. Yeah, I mean, that's as good as we can get. Bombs. Missiles, does this look any better? No, I still see a bug. Yeah, no, okay. No, not much, not much. Okay, at this point, I feel like these residuals are about as good as I can get. I want to plot the fit. I want to look through those residuals one by one. I'm talking about the overall residuals, the 4. This is supposed to look scattered, and most enemy deaths are in the low range. There's a few enemy deaths in the high range, and it seems to be about appropriate. I don't see anything else that could be modeled. Oh, gee, that looks great. And that one, it says maybe there's a slight curve, but I couldn't see what to use to model that curve. And we have one data point, 930. What's with that? So let's go ahead and show 930. If your data set's too big, R might not show you all the data, but 930 isn't too far. 2,000 enemy deaths. Oh, there's why. Huge amount of civilian deaths. 101 is a lot. But these other values don't seem out of range. Well, the temperature is pretty low. But, well, I think I was looking at the wrong one. There's temperature, -13. That's not terrible. It's just there was a freakish number of civilian deaths. We must have bombed a concert of Britney Spears or something. I don't know. So, yes, I see that that's a very high data point. It doesn't look like there's anything totally inappropriate with that data point. I think it really is just an unusual circumstance. All right, I feel good about that. I'm ready to declare the enemy model as completed. All my residuals look good. Oh, darn. I'm not done yet, am I? I forgot. I have all the terms in my model, but I have perhaps too many. Look, there's stuff here that doesn't need to be there. Okay, so where are we going to... Oh, look at that. That's a pretty nasty term. It's got a big p-value. Is there anybody shockingly higher? Yeah, temperature. Temperature. Stop highlighting everything. Temperature is pretty useless. And payload. Okay, so let's start taking these out one at a time. Starting with temperature, and then payload. Okay, now all my p-values are small. Okay, and I'm going to take this guy out. This is one of the larger p-values, and it's a complicated thing. So my enemy model doesn't have interactions. In my report, I'll say that I looked for them and didn't see any worth putting in. Let's take out weapon. Now I'm going to do napalm. There's only a few left. It looks like firepower would be next, which is good, because I think I have log firepower. And, well, that's not hugely significant, but firepower itself was worse. So let's find fire. And taking out firepower actually made log firepower worse. And why is that? I think it might be because firepower is in this list. There's something else, probably bombs, that's taking care of what firepower was doing. So we don't really need any firepower at all if we're going to use bombs. And apparently if we're going to use bombs, it's not the log of bombs that's helpful. Where is bombs itself? Ooh, very, very significant. Log bombs, not so much. And log bombs is maybe more complicated. So let's take him out. Who is left? All right, terrorism medium has the biggest p-value, but remember terrorism medium is also connected to low, and low has a 0.08. So are there any others? See, media's got a bigger p-value. Media squared. Okay, yeah, well, maybe. Let's. Oh boy, which one? Should I take out media because it has a bigger p-value, or should I take out media squared because it's more complicated? I think I'm going to choose to take out media squared for its complication. Which is I was about to do that. I remember media had this weird swirl in it, and apparently it was log media that helped fix it, not the media squared that helped fix it. Even though when I looked at it in log scale, it didn't seem that much better, but obviously an interaction with all the other variables in the model was helpful. Ooh, great. I love seeing all those stars. That means stuff's very significant. Media itself is not. And that's okay because log media is there. It shouldn't be that both log media and media are in the model. So log media is what's needed. Okay, what do I have left? Terrorism medium is big and terrorism low is big. Okay, those are both over 0.05. I'm going to argue it doesn't look like the terrorism variable needs to be in there. Was that the last thing to take out? That guy's still significant. Okay, this looks like a good model. However, just because I'm the type of anal person that worries about this sort of thing, I'm going to check those residuals one more time. Still looking really good. Yeah, all right. I like all these. Personnel, I'm still seeing that little puffer fish. Where was personnel? But I tried squaring it and that didn't help, and I really can't think of what else would fix it. So, good. All right. What, 20-minute video? I think that I now have a decent fit on my enemy. Now, it's a 20-minute video, but this took me 42 minutes, and I've had lots of practice. I've done several final project datasets before, so you should plan for yourself to spend a lot of time going through this carefully until you finally like the way things look. Let's start a new video, and we'll see if we can do the same thing for the civilian data.